fights. This ain't the same Canelo. Like this ain't. It's not been the same Canelo in a while. Like he's fighting a bigger Canelo, but he's not fighting the Canelo that beat Callum Smith. He's not fighting the Canelo that beat Caleb Plant. You know, he's fighting the guy who looked like he kind of sucked against William Skull. You know what I mean? He looked like he's fighting a guy who fought Edgar Berlanga, who has still yet to prove he's even world class. Edgar Berlanga, you know, or I don't know. You know, he fought Jaime Munguia, who then got beat by a complete unknown after that in the next fight. So do we really, like, what level is Canelo on? We know Crawford is in his natural weight. Is a less than stellar Crawford at this bigger weight that maybe is prevented from being so mobile and so fluid? Is he still less than this very average Canelo? Canelo's been very average for a while now, you know. And for anybody that criticized me for the criticism, I fully admit there's been moments in Canelo's career where he's shown he's world class. Do I think he's overrated? Absolutely. I think he's always been overrated. But that doesn't mean I don't think he's world class. Like, you know, I just don't think he's among those great Mexican fighters that I grew up to know and love, you know? And we all grew up to know and love. I don't think he's in that conversation with those people. But he's been a class, world-class fighter and champion.
Now, there is Pauli Maganaggi's take on Canelo Alvarez taking on Terence Crawford. Now, keep in mind, everything that this man said, I had been saying. Most importantly, everything that he just said was before the fight, before we knew what the outcome was going to be. Okay? See, what's important now is not what people are saying now, because what people are saying now doesn't really matter, does it? Because hindsight is 20/20. Everybody's has something to say when they seen the result of the fight. You know what I mean? What matters is the prediction and what people said before the fight. You know, that has more legitimacy, especially when you're right. Bars. You know what I mean? And what he said, and I'm going to break it down to you guys. Pauli Maganaggi, what he said, you know, we haven't seen the same Canelo for years now. That's true. That's true. That Canelo that fought Caleb Plant, that Canelo that fought Billy Joe, that Canelo that fought Danny Jacobs even. We haven't seen that dude in a very long time. Like, if you guys watch my shorts that I've put out last year, I've been saying that Canelo's been slowing down. However, that has nothing to do with the outcome of the fight, and I'm going to tell you why. You know, because according to everyone, all the experts, or a lot of the experts for a while, they all said that it was crazy for Terence Crawford to go up there because styles make fights, or there's weight classes, should I say, for a reason. Not styles make fights, because they didn't say that. Style, it didn't matter what Crawford was able to do. They compared Crawford to Jermell Charlo. And because they compared him to Jermell Charlo, he had no chance. He had no chance of taking the shot. He had no chance of beating Canelo. He had no chance of affecting Canelo. He had no chance whatsoever to do anything to Canelo, to stop Canelo from doing what he normally does with everyone else. But what they fail to realize is Canelo wasn't really doing any and everything to these fighters recently. Now, I'm not trying to take away Terence Crawford's win, because you can't do that, because it's still a magnificent thing for someone that was undisputed at 147, then became the WBA champion at 154, then skipped right over 160 to go to 168 to beat the guy that was considered the cash cow of the sport, and on top of being one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, Canelo Alvarez. So you still can't take away what he did, because he still didn't supposed to do it. It didn't matter what Canelo or what condition he was in. People saw that fight with William Skull. They blamed it all on Skull and why that fight went the way it went. Or I was right the first time. Went the way it was fought. Because the way it was fought, we should have seen that Canelo Alvarez is slowing down fight after fight after fight. And people thought, man, that one shot that he throws will be able to cripple Crawford, or that shot to the body. And what he then what we do, we warp back to the Rocky Fielding fight, which was in what, 2020? What was that fight? When was that fight? 2020? Some shit like that? When he fought Rocky Fielding, that fight was a long time ago. It might have been 19, because Canelo's been there for a long time. And all we did was we compared Canelo's victories and what he did in the division. And we compared what he could do to Terrence Crawford, but 5 years later. That's what we did, and we were wrong. They were wrong, and I kept telling people, you're wrong. You know what I mean? And the thing is, it's like, okay, well, can Crawford do this? Crawford done it. You know what I mean? But like Pauli said, he thinks he's always been an overrated fighter. Well, I think he's been overrated based on what people thought about Canelo. And again, for those who don't know how I feel about Canelo Alvarez, I'm going to say it again. Canelo Alvarez, I don't think got better over the years. I don't think that. I've never thought that. I've always felt Canelo Alvarez has been a good fighter, a very good fighter. But he's always being and will be always challenged by the fighters that are pure boxers, that are elite offensive and defensive fighters, like Floyd, like Crawford, like Bivol, like Lara. Those guys will always give him problems because they will never, based on their style, will never give him enough to look like those other fighters that he had been victorious with. They won't give him that, therefore he won't go out and take it because he doesn't make adjustments like that. That will always be an issue for Canelo, always. So therefore, hence, he didn't get any better over this time. He just looked better fighting guys that he knows that he's better than, that doesn't have those styles like Crawford or Mayweather or even a Lara. You see what I mean? So he's going to be tested. He's going to be fully challenged in a way that's going to cause him grief, that's going to cause him to break his poker face, that's going to cause him to be frustrated and try to shut and pick up the fighter like he did with Bivol, like he did with Crawford, like he did with Lara. He got frustrated because he didn't like those guys. He didn't like those guys slipping his shots. And if they tried to wrap him up or grab him, he always had a tendency to come up and pick those guys up like he wanted to choke their ass out the ring. That's the problem. That's the point. That's Canelo in a nutshell. But you guys tell me what you think of Pauli Maganaggi stating that Canelo Alvarez is slowing down, and he said that before the fight, not after. Because if it was done after, you have to know, right? It's made as an excuse. And it takes away the credibility of Terrence Crawford. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!